Hello all, this is my example of how to evaluate 4 different vendors and summarize your findings. So for this example, I've chosen Palmer's, Jacobstein Food Services, US Foods, and BJ's Wholesale Club. So the first part of our vendor evaluation is to go through and rate each individual vendor based on certain factors. What you have on this worksheet here is basically a shortened version of the rating factor list from what's in your purchasing textbook. Because of limited class time, I shortened the rating factors, but I would advise using all the factors shown in your textbook. So for the first vendor, I looked at Palmer's, which is a local business. In terms of product availability, I believe them to be excellent. Their payment policies and procedures are pretty straightforward, so I would call that acceptable. They have a very good reputation among many professionals in the area. They've been in business for a number of years and have very good experience, and their product costs are right around typical for the Rochester area. So with this in mind, when I go to give them their total ratings, since I gave them 0 checks here, they would actually have 0 points right here. This is actually a typo. That would be 0 points. Now under the acceptable, they would have 4 points because I gave them 2 check marks, each one worth 2 points. And under excellent, they would have 9 points because I gave them 3 check marks. Each one carries a rating of 3 total points. So for for Palmer's overall, they would have 13 total points. Now we come down to Jacobstein Food Services, known as JFS in the industry. Again, I believe them to have excellent product availability. They have acceptable payment policies and procedures. They have a good reputation. They've been in business for a long time. However, I find their product cost to be a little high. So again, I go through and I do my total ratings and points following the same method I used above. Now, Jacobstein is more of a broad line type vendor. They have a lot of different products. Palmer's is a bit more of a specialty line vendor. Now we come down to US Foods. US Foods is a very large broadline vendor because, as their name implies, they operate all across the United States. And as such, they have excellent product availability. They have a very wide array of products. Their payment policies are pretty typical. Their reputation is good, but it's not excellent because sometimes their delivery times can be a little bit slow given the large scale nature of their operation. With their years in business and experience, I personally have no opinion, just from lack of experience with their vendor, and their product costs are pretty much middle of the road. So again, we go through and we can tally up that score. Lastly, we come down to BJ's Wholesale Club, which is a buyer's club. And as we've discussed in class, buyer's clubs have, their advantages and disadvantages. But in general, I would say their product availability is acceptable. They have a decent variety. Their payment procedures are acceptable because their payment procedures are very simple. You pay the minute you purchase it. So it's what we would call cash on delivery, or in this case, we go and we pay cash on site. You can pay with a credit card as well if you have a business credit card for your restaurant. BJ's has a good reputation as a wholesale club. They're pretty fair. Again, I have no real opinion on their years in business. I would call their product costs unacceptable because most products that we get at BJ's we could get much cheaper from a broadline vendor such as a US Foods or a Jacobstein, or even from a specialty line such as a Palmer's. So again, go through and tally up the total score. Now we come to part 2, where we summarize what we've done with our 4 vendors. So for Palmer's, their total number of points was 14. And in my opinion, what I personally like about Palmer's is that they're a local business. I like to support mom and pop businesses, and we've discussed the sustainability and economic advantages in class of dealing with local companies. So they're a local business with a great reputation, and they have a big emphasis on quality. Now, because they're specialty line, they don't have every product we would ever need, so they can't be our only vendor. But they would be great for meat, poultry, and seafood. So I check them as one of my top 2 approved vendors, but we will have to use others. Coming down to JFS, Jacob Steam Food Services, they're a regional business, so they're not a massive business, but they are based in Rochester, but they serve other districts. They do have a good reputation, and their offerings are a lot more broad than Palmer's, but they are a little bit pricey in certain areas. So you'll want to use them carefully. We have to do a more thorough analysis of which product categories are the most efficient ones to use. But again, with a total number of points of 12 and with their overall emphasis on quality, they make my top 2. US Foods, as I've said earlier, is a national business with a broad line of products. They have a decent reputation and their costs are pretty middle of the road. So they're not a bad option for some general product categories like a lot of dry goods and things of that nature. They're not my top 2, but I would still advise using them for certain categories. And then lastly, BJ's Wholesale Club. BJ's number 1 advantage is they're convenient. And you drive right over, you pick up what you need, you go back to your restaurant. There's also no minimum order number, which is a general advantage with a buyer's club. However, their prices are going to be, especially per unit, are going to be higher relative to the other vendors. But if you're ever in a situation where you're in an inventory crunch or you have a cash flow problem, they're not a bad option. So I would say to use them periodically. So I hope this example and overview will help you to complete your vendor evaluation sheet in class. We'll see you on Wednesday. Thank you.